Welcome back to another video. This time around we'll be talking about common statistical tests. Under this topic we have four main components: the t-test, ANOVA, chi-square, and Fisher's exact test. It becomes very easy when you break them down in twos, so we're going to take t-test and ANOVA as one, and then chi-squared and Fisher's exact test as the other. The first way you can tell if you're here or if you're here is just by noticing whether you're comparing means, in other words, numbers, actual numbers, or categories. How you do that is by interpreting the question stem and trying to understand whether you're purposefully checking the means of two groups, for example, checking for a number within each and every single group, or if you're organizing the two groups into two different categories, for example, smokers and non-smokers. A little small note, sometimes you can organize people, in other words, you can categorize them using numbers. For example, let's say you organize people that have a random blood sugar of greater than 200 or less than 200. In other words, you have two different groups of people, you're using numbers, but at the end of the day, you're just categorizing them into one or the other. With this understanding in mind, let's start comparing t-test to ANOVA. It's better to understand the differences between them than to just understand t-test alone, ANOVA alone, chi-squared alone, Fisher's exact test alone. Instead, try and compare them to their partners. So let's start with t-test and ANOVA. T-test, it looks for the means of two groups. Again, we're focusing on the number, we're focusing on means, for example, of only two groups. ANOVA, same thing, we're focusing on the number, we're focusing on means, but of three or more groups. Their examples are great here. In a t-test, comparing, for example, the mean blood pressure between men and women, notice how we have two different groups, and we're checking the mean blood pressure, which is a number, of men versus women. When you compare that example to ANOVA, notice how there are three different ethnic groups. Each group still has, for example, a mean blood pressure. One has, for example, 100, the other one has 120, the other one has 140. All of them have a mean blood pressure, but at the end of the day, it's not two groups, it's three groups. For that reason, we use ANOVA. So again, t-test, ANOVA, the only thing you're focusing on, are they comparing means? If so, then are those means belonging to only two groups, or are there more than two groups? Are there three or more groups? When we talk about chi-square and Fisher's exact test, we are not really focusing on the numbers so much as we are focusing on the different categories we're in. An example of this would be comparing men versus women to see whether they are smokers, positive or negative, whether they do smoke or whether they do not smoke. Notice how here we have a category, here we have a category. With t-test and ANOVA, notice we do have one side being a category, men and women in this case, but the other variable is a numerical, not a category. With chi-squared and Fisher's exact test, this is thrown out the window. We do not have numbers anymore. We have two sort of categories. We have the first category, which is, men and women, the default, and then the other one, which could have been numerical but isn't. Instead, it's categorical. So now, since you get the gist of it, these are both almost similar. The only difference between them is that chi-squared is similar to ANOVA. It can handle two or more, while this one can only handle two. The only other difference is that this chi-squared can handle large samples, but Fisher's exact test can only work with small populations, in other words, small populations. And they highlight this well in the example. Notice how here they say three different ethnic groups, and here they mention only men versus women. So just to summarize, notice you start with the variables to be compared, like we mentioned. Do they start with numerical or do they do categories? If they're doing numerical, then you go to this side. You're comparing whether it's t-test or ANOVA. If it's two groups, you go for t-test. If it's more than three groups or three groups, then you go for ANOVA. If it's categorical, however, then you're going to basically be between Fisher's exact test and chi-squared test. If it's a large sample size or three or more groups, then you're going to be sure that it's going to be chi-squared test. But if it's a small sample size, then you're going to be sure that it's Fisher's exact test. Note that if it is two groups, you can't really tell one from the other since both can be two. Hopefully you should be good with common statistical tests now, and let's move on to the other topic. So let's start with correlation. Whenever you hear correlation, Pearson comes to mind. And the reason he comes to mind is because he made R. What is R? R helps to tell us how well correlated two variables are. Now let me just make a quick graph. Let's say we have a straight line, and let's say all the points are on this line. Now this correlation is perfectly linear. In other words, it is a perfect correlation. All of them are sort of on this line. Now what ends up happening in real life is that some of these points, let's say they're x coordinate doesn't really move, but their y coordinate can vary. This one can go up a bit, this one can go down a bit, this one maybe goes up a little bit, this one also goes up. Eventually you're going to have a graph like this, and this sort of mimics what you usually see in reality. The line is like this, but the points are really just, you know, scattered everywhere around this line. Okay? It's because sometimes points can vary. Sometimes your results can vary. And since a lot of points tend to vary, nothing is exactly perfect, you usually tend to have all these varied points. But what Pearson figured out is that he can quantify this. In other words, he can give this this relationship sort of a number that can help immediately tell us what's going on. So he sort of developed a system where as soon as he says negative 0.8, r equals negative 0.8, you immediately have this image in your mind. If he says r 0.4, you immediately have this in your mind. So what is r? R helps tell us how well correlated two variables are. In other words, as something gets more and more correlated, it tends to follow this sort of imaginary line that we don't see. You see this little arrow that they're pointing here? As r keeps getting closer to either -1 or 1, they tend to be very, very close. The points tend to be very, very close. They vary very little, and they tend to be very close to this center line that you see here. Notice as we're going closer to 0, in this case negative 0.4, notice how the points are a lot more varied away. And once we reach 0, notice how there's absolutely no correlation. The points are pretty much everywhere. There's no real line you can draw to sort of guide you to where the real correlation is, because there isn't any. So R helps give us an idea of how well two variables are correlated. It can either be between -1 and +1, and the closer the absolute value is to 1, in other words, if you take absolute value of -1 and you get to 1, the closer the absolute value of R is to 1, it means the better correlated it is, the stronger the linear correlation between two variables is. Now, as the linear correlation gets stronger, variance decreases, because as the linear correlation gets stronger, the points are less varied, the points are much closer to this middle line, and therefore variance is going to decrease. So in other terms, variance is how much the measured values differ from the average, in other words, the average value in the data set, which is basically this line. There are specific terms for R. In other words, there could be a positive R or a negative R. Now, these do not mean what they initially, lead you to think. A positive R doesn't mean that a variable increases, the other increases only. Positive R means that both variables go in the same direction. What that means is that if one goes up, the other goes up. But it also means if one goes down, the other goes down. So these are all positive correlation. They have to go the same direction. With negative R, they have to go the opposite direction. So for example, if one goes up, the other has to go down. If one goes down, the other has to go up. So this is a negative correlation. In other words, they go the opposite direction. Last but not least, let's talk about the coefficient of determination, otherwise known as R squared. You probably read the definition and were left more confused than you first started. Amount of variance in one variable that can be explained by variance in another variable. Let's just quickly explain this. There are two ways to explain it. The first way will be just how we interpret it. So let's say, for example, we have graph, and let's say this was step 1 score, S1S, step 1 score, and here was amount of time studying, and let's say for all intents and purposes that the correlation was 90%. So R was 0.9, so R equals 0.9. Now, what this definition says, I'm gonna go back to this paradigm, just 1 second. What this definition says is that if we have a variable called x and we have a variable called y, then if we take r squared, it's going to represent the amount of variance in x that can be explained by the variance in y. So, for example, let's say it was 70%. That means that out of all the variance in x, 70% of it can be explained by the variance in y. That tells us that as y is sort of becoming different numbers, it sort of links itself to x becoming different numbers. How much is it linking to x becoming different numbers? 70% of x's different numbers are being affected by y changing to different numbers. Now, the best way I can explain this is by this first way. The second way we'll use the graphs for that, but just follow with me here. Let's say r was 0.9, then r squared would be 0.81. Just multiply 0.9 by itself, and then you get 0.81. So what does this 0.81 mean? Well, it means that 81% of the variance in the step 1 score can be explained by the variance in the amount of time studying. This is how you interpret it. This is basically how you interpret it. 0.81, which is 81% of one variable's variance, can be explained by the variance that's happening here. The better way to explain it is to visualize it. Let's say, for example, this has a certain y value, this point has a certain y value, this point has a certain y value, this point has a certain y value, and you keep going on and so forth until you map them all at certain y values. So here, 80% of the variance happening in this y-axis can be explained by the variance happening here. Notice, the y coordinate is going down as x is increasing. So as x is pretty much becoming different numbers, it's varying, it's increasing in its amount. It's accounting for the variance that's happening in the y-axis of all these different points. Notice how y is going down as x is moving to the right. Y is going down. So 80% of the changes in these values are because this value is changing. Compare that with something, for example, like r equals 0, where there's no correlation. Notice how all these points have close to a very similar y-axis, but they all have different x-axes. In other words, when this value is changing, it's not really explaining any variance here, because look, this is still the same point. Regardless of whether x is changing or not changing, it's not really explaining why we're not getting any sort of variation right here. It sort of helps us understand that, hey, y can be pretty much anything. It can vary, it can be much anything, and it doesn't really depend on what x is. X could be here or here or here, and you can get still a y value here, a y value here, a y value here, or you can get a y value here or one here. It doesn't really depend on x changing for y to change. None of the variance of x is really explaining any of the variance in y. So that's two ways you can understand it. One way is by your step one score and the time you're studying. It's very keen example, especially in a video about USMLE step 1 crash course. But the other way you can explain it is by just visualizing it. Hey, look, as the x value is changing here, the y value is also changing. So 80% of the changes in y-axis is happening because of the changes in the x-axis. And here, when there's no correlation, you can pretty much notice that, hey, y can be whatever it wants, it can vary as it wants, and x can be whatever it wants, and this changing isn't really explaining any of the changes happening here. With that, hopefully you understand Pearson's correlation coefficient and common statistical tests. I hope you benefited from this video. Consider liking and subscribing, and as always, thanks for watching.